Moments later, he began descending the staircase. As soon as he stepped down, the door slammed shut behind him, as if sealing him in. He realized that the wooden plank, which had kept it open, had snapped. But he paid no attention to that. All that mattered to him was crossing the tunnel as quickly as possible. He continued downward without glancing below, stepping one stair after another, until he found himself inside a pitch-black tunnel. The only light was from his lantern. He moved forward a few steps, feeling his way along. In his right hand, he clutched the lantern, while with his left, he brushed aside the thick spider webs hanging in his path. He walked several meters, his heartbeat growing faster and faster. He strained his eyes, trying to glimpse the end of the tunnel, but the webbed curtains blocked his sight. Khaled pressed deeper into the darkness, searching for the cellar stairway the old man had told him about. His pace quickened as the air grew thin, squeezing his chest tighter with every breath. He clutched his throat, gasping, stumbling forward. But the stairway was nowhere to be found. He ran like a madman, his strength draining from him, palms sliding along the cold walls of the tunnel, desperate to find any opening. Nothing. Breathless, he whispered to himself, "Where are you, Path?" He knew he could not even turn back. He would suffocate before he reached the stairs again. Forward was his only chance. He rushed on, searching left and right, above and below, but there was nothing. At last, he collapsed onto the ground. The lantern tumbled from his hand beside him. With a faint, broken voice, he cried, "There is no cellar, none at all." Then silence. His head tilted to the side, his eyes nearly closing in surrender, until his gaze caught a faint spot of light, cast by the fallen lantern. A weary smile tugged at his lips. "Forks cellar," he murmured, before letting his eyelids droop for a moment. When he opened them again, his eyes fixed on the outline of wooden planks stacked together in the glow, forming what seemed to be a small door on one side of the tunnel. The wooden door lay only a few feet away, while Khaled remained sprawled on his back, utterly drained. Then, with a sudden jolt, he stirred again, dragging his body toward the door. He crawled like a wounded creature, too weak to rise to his feet, fighting for breath as though drowning. Inch by inch, he pushed forward, shoving with his legs, pulling with his arms, the lantern clamped between his teeth. He forced himself onward, whispering delirious words of hope. "This is salvation. This is Forks cellar. Where air lives, where life begins." The words gave him strength, and he edged closer and closer to the door. Summoning the last of his strength, he thrust his foot forward, yet once more his body faltered, collapsing just a few steps short. His eyes fixed desperately on the door. He stretched out his hand, but his fingers could not reach. They hung in the air as if surrendering. Then, with a primal cry that gathered every shred of strength left within him, he hurled his body forward like a stone crashing against an ancient wooden door. The rotting planks shattered beneath his weight, and he tumbled through, plunging onto a wooden staircase. Eyes shut, his body rolled downward like a ball bouncing from step to step, striking hard against the rough edges, falling deeper and deeper until at last, the impact eased. He opened his eyes slowly. Khaled found himself lying across one of the broad steps, his chest heaving with a long, refreshing breath. Air, pure, abundant, filled his lungs as though he had drunk from a well after years of thirst. Relief surged through him when he realized he no longer needed his lantern. The suffocating darkness was gone. He pushed himself to his feet, joy breaking from him in a cry. "I'm in Forks cellar! I'm in Forks cellar!" He looked down. The staircase still stretched further below. Without hesitation, he hurried downward, ignoring the bruises from his fall. He longed to discover everything before the moonlight vanished. His thoughts raced. Everything the book described is real. The air is here. The moonlight lights my way. What else did its author uncover? At last, he reached the bottom step, standing now within the cellar itself. Khalid found himself standing before a vast tunnel, far larger than the one he had passed through earlier. Its height neared 10 meters, and its width was almost the same. He walked into it, staring in awe at its massive walls, as though he were exploring a grand tourist site. Pulling out his pen and papers, he began jotting down a few lines about what he saw, moving deeper and deeper inside while asking himself, how could such an enormous passage exist beneath my town, known only to the author of that mysterious book and a handful of people no one would ever believe? It could be the greatest discovery of the modern age, one that might turn his hometown into a major attraction. Perhaps this was what the writer had meant by his discovery, the tunnel itself. Khalid walked on, captivated, even laughing hysterically as the pain he had been feeling faded away. Maybe, he thought, he would stumble upon a hidden treasure now. He searched every corner of the passage, unwilling to leave a single spot unchecked. Then his feet struck something. When he looked down, his heart jolted. It was a human skeleton. It was the first time he had ever seen one, though it would not be the last. The farther he went, the more he found. Fear slowly crept into his chest, as though the bones themselves whispered to him that this was the fate awaiting all who entered the tunnel. A dreadful thought crossed his mind, that one of them might belong to his father or mother. He prayed the truth was otherwise. Then he felt the light behind him dimming little by little. He glanced at his wristwatch. It was nearly 5 a.m. He realized the moon was beginning to set and had no idea what would happen next. The book had said the vault remains lit while the moon is present, and nothing more. After a short while, the vault's light faded gradually. He paid it no mind and pushed on, step after step, until he came upon an image carved into one of the vault's walls. A portrait of a man whose features oozed wealth. Smiling, he spoke aloud to it. "You must be Forik. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Khalid Hosni, the discoverer of your great vault, and I'll be living the best days of my life because of you." He took his phone out to snap a picture. No sooner had he pressed the button than the ground gave a violent jolt beneath his feet that nearly knocked him over. He turned to the side and watched the vault walls collapsing in the distance, rushing toward him, the collapse closing in fast. He stumbled backward a few steps, then had no choice but to turn his body and run forward. Khalid ran, the crashing walls chasing him like a lion pursuing prey. He could hardly believe his eyes. He felt as if he were trapped inside a dream. And he ran faster. The thunder of falling boulders pounded his ears. If even one rock hit him, it would mean death. His shoulder bag fell and its contents spilled out, but he didn't bother to pick anything up. His long legs and wide strides kept him moving. He ran toward who knew what, into the unknown, and screamed inside himself. How would he ever return to his country again? This was ruin. The vault was collapsing. What had happened above? Soon he found himself at a fork, where the vault split into 2 paths. He lunged into one without meaning to. The other path crumbled before he could reach it, as if the collapse itself were steering him. Then, to his surprise, he found he was running up a slope, ascending, while the collapse accelerated behind him, faster and faster, trying to swallow him whole. He fought the difficulty of the climb, striding quickly, until a blinding light came into view as far as he could see, the kind of daylight he knew well. He hurried toward it while the darkness and the falling debris still pursued him, reached the opening, and leapt out. The vault collapsed beneath him and shut, as if the earth had spat him back out.